Hi there. Welcome to this episode of Big Story Gazette. I'm smiling because a thought just popped through my head as I was turning the camera on. This is going to be a good one. Uh, it's funny. I love it myself. Uh, just all day, I knew I was going to record a video today. So I pretty much was setting up the ideas in my head, a topic I wanted to talk about, and doing a rough draft in my head. And just about 5 minutes ago, it totally changed up. I was just walked into the kitchen to fill up my glass of water so I could come here and start recording. And just as I was walking up to the bottled water dispenser, I hear this voice in my head say, "Talk about the voices in your head." So that's what I'm going to talk about, the voices in my head. Because there is, how did I used to phrase it? There's a committee. There's a committee in my head, and the spiritual me, is part of that committee. There's four people. I describe it and see it in my head as a table. We're sitting around a table, and right now there's four of us. There, you know, can be more coming in later or whatever, but generally there's four people, four entities sitting at the table. Uh, and I'll share it. But I'm going to go back to uh, there was a period when Georgianne and I were on the truck. We were on the truck for 11 years and going through our waking up period in the whole 9 yards. We didn't talk much on the CB. We didn't. We spent more time out on the road than we did in our apartment or in motels. So we watched very little television. We didn't listen to the AM FM radio, and we very seldom talked on the CB radio. So we were pretty well isolated. We did initially, when I first waking up, we pretty much just engaged uh, solely with Hilarious and learning from him and those frequencies. And then I told you about Nimish and Nefesh. Well, when Nimish and Nefesh left, two other beings came in. Zeal here and Raluan came in, Georgianne. And they hung around for a while. And like I shared before, with entrainment brought us, up to here like that. And then after Zeal and Raluan, Atavar and Aquazar came in. And, we interacted with them as them. And I actually had documentation to prove it because through the period, I don't have it anymore, and I just realized yesterday I may not ever get those newsletters back. But it is what it is. I think I've kind of been stiffed, but I can live with that. I can live with that because it is what it is. But as Nimish and Nefesh, we published some newsletters. We initially published newsletters, Michael and Georgianne, and then the change was evidence, or it was the change from Mike and Georgianne to Nimish and Nefesh was illustrated in the newsletters because that's who was in the driver's seat at the time. So we would have the first opening paragraph of the newsletters would be pretty much the same thing, but the names changed. And then there's newsletters published with Zeo and Raluan. And there's newsletters published with Atavar and Aquazar. And I know this sounds extremely crazy and weird, which is one of the reasons why I was wanting to get those newsletters back, because I could show you up on the screen and you could read for yourself the progression and the names, and all I was going to do was, white out the address in Chicago because that's where she's still currently living, and I, just for privacy's sake, I, just block that out, redact. I love it. I was going to redact the address, but allow you, the viewer, to see that yes, here's physical evidence from 20, 25 years ago that Nemish and Nephish were real, Zeo and Raluan were real, and Atavar and Aquazar were real. But like I said, I don't know that I'm going to. I've been trying for the last couple of days to contact this person, get my newsletters back, but I can't seem to get a hold of him, so it is what it is. Uh, I don't lie. I choose not to lie. I exercise my divine sovereign authority to not lie. So believe me if you want or not, even though I would like to have the proof, because there was also some stuff in, like I mentioned in a couple videos ago, there was a couple stories and articles that I wanted to share from the newsletters that are pertinent right now. But anyway, we'll move on. So, uh, so those beings came in, and I went through that, So anyway, the voices in my head. So when we were on the truck, we were totally isolated. Pretty much, we didn't interact with the quote outside world. We just interacted verbally with our, you know, larger selves, and that's where we got our data from. We did not grow up in the New Age community. We engaged with Hilarious, and that's all we did. Matter of fact, to give you an example, I think it was in like 1993, 94, 93, 94. We went on vacation from, our trucking company job. We took our vacation and we went to Mexico. And we specifically timed it so that we could go to the Mayan solar initiation, which was, and you can look it up because it happened. This was in 93, 94, I think. We went, I forget, but it was on the Yucatan Peninsula in the little city of that was. It's actually the Yucatan province. The capital city of that is Merida. Merida. It's not Merida. Yeah, Merida. Merida. It's the capital of the province, which would be like a state. So it's the capital of the state. It's a big city. It's a big cosmopolitan city. We stayed in a brand new 5-star hotel, which would, the whole event was booked there. And so, that's where we took our vacation. And a bunch of tourists from all over, bunch of people from all over the world were going, and different tour groups were going from different locations around the world and around the country. Well, this was a little while after we had interacted with the Flower of Life uh, workshop and with Karen and Jeffrey, the facilitators. So we were familiar with them, and we had a bunch of friends in Sedona anyway. So we called the people in Sedona, and we hooked up with, and we went on that vacation, on that trip to Mexico. We went with the group, the Flower of Life group from uh, Sedona. Well, because we didn't grow up and weren't involved in the local / New Age community, we hadn't started the newsletters yet. So we didn't know really, and hadn't any urge to look into and explore the local New Age community. We found out later that the whole New Age community from Chicago, they sent a big group, and we were living in Chicago. We found out later that we could have just went with the group from Chicago, but we didn't even know they were there. We weren't aware of them because we were focused on our spiritual growth, getting our data vertically from spirit through Hilarious, And so So anyway, like I said, we didn't grow up in the New Age community, uh, and a lot of the New Age community took issue with us and our perspectives because they're extremely a lot more expensive than what was being ballied about in the New Age community back then and still now to some degree. The New Age community now has caught up to where we were 15. Matter of fact, I just always used to use a phrase uh, never mind, I'm getting off track. Anyway, the voice is in my head. So when when Georgianne and I got divorced, separated and then divorced, we got officially divorced in 2003. And so I ran solo for a year, and I wasn't having any fun out there by myself because I was used to the last 11 years of having my spiritual partner slash best friend slash wife sitting within arm's length of me, with me 24 hours a day. But then now all of a sudden I'm out here on the road by myself and I'm not having any fun. And so it's like I quit running long haul. I was on my second truck, had bought my second truck, and I just gave it back to the bank. I knew it would go on my record, my credit report as voluntary repossession, but I was done with up to here with being out on the road, being an owner operator, yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards. So I just gave the truck back to the bank, and it was a really nice truck. I mean, it was. I had thought it was going to be my last truck after having bought one and driven for a bunch of years and bought my first truck, paid it off, then bought my second truck. I thought this would be the last one I buy. It had all the bells and whistles. It was super nice. But after about a year and a half of that, I said, you know what? It's just a truck. It's a tool. It's not me. I'm not my truck. So I gave it back to the bank. So anyway, I got a local job, and I drove local here in Southern California. I drove local for 7 years until my boss lied to me and on me and fired me. So, and the lie he told me, uh, not knowing that he was lying to me, I just, because I don't assume people are bad. I just looked at my options and I decided, and Yasko, who I told you about last uh, video, I think it was last video. Anyway, Yasko was my housemate slash best friend slash ex lover, but still housemate. We to this day we've been together playing house for 14 years, even though she's like my platonic wife. But anyway, we became business partners. We bought another truck, and I went back out on the big road, and she ran the company. We started our own company. She ran the company administrative, and I took care of the maintenance of the vehicles, the truck and trailer, and I drove the truck and trailer. We had a small trucking company, one truck operation, but we owned it all, and we did that for 5 years. Well, for until I retired in 2017. So for those 5 years, I'm back out on the road, but I'm back there by myself. But I'm back to that isolation again. I'm not listening. I don't listen to the radio. I would listen to my music, but not the AM FM. Only my choice of music, CDs and stuff like that. And and I didn't talk on the CB radio much because we always had a phrase: "There's no intelligent life out there on the CB radio." It really is. That's Channel 19 is the road channel for the trucking industry, and the generic name for Channel 19 is Sesame Street. Everybody in the trucking industry just refers to the road channel, Channel 19, as Sesame Street. That gives an indication of how stupid it is. There is no intelligent life, so I just stayed off it. So anyway, I just drive down the road and I go 5 hours without uttering a word. Just drive straight and but there's always a conversation going on in here, me and Spirit, and man, it was intense. I was going through an intensive again, and I realized in retrospect that's exactly what I was supposed to go through because that was building up, building up, building up. to hear. And I used to have these conversations, all the time, listening to this voice in my head. And I just, I knew I was listening to higher self. That's still higher self. I knew I was listening to higher self and, just learning a lot of stuff, different big story perspectives. I'd get a big story perspective. I built a lot of models out there on the road in those 5 years by myself from 2012 to 2017. And, I'd get a data from my big story and then just in my vocal silence, I would just in my head build these models. And like I say, step it down in frequency in that model. And if I can get it to here to where this data here made sense to down here in the 3D, then I built a good model. And that's a lot of stuff that I'm sharing, in these videos. So anyway, one day I'm driving down the road and I hear this from the voice in my head. This is an exact quote. Consider the possibility that Alarius is the synergetic entity of all Zrim Kam Fu. Now, I know that means nothing to you because there's a lot in that statement that I haven't even covered yet. So I know that means nothing to you, but that's exactly what I heard. Exactly presented that way. Quote, consider the possibility that Alarius is the synergetic entity of all Zrim Kam Fu. And I heard that and I looked at that concept as I'm driving down the road. I looked at that concept and I'm like trying to get my head around it, and I'm getting my head around it. Well, while I'm getting my head around it, I hear this. Direct quote. He's pretty sharp. Give him a few minutes. He'll get it. Just give him a few minutes. He'll get it. Well, I got it. But while I'm busy working my head around this really big concept that was presented to me to consider the possibility of, which I did get, I heard that statement, that phrase, that I heard, just give him a minute. He'll get it. He's pretty sharp. He'll get it. What didn't dawn on me, because I was so busy focusing on getting my head around this possibility, I later realized I overheard a conversation in my head by more than one entity referring to me. And they were referring to me in the third person. They were referring to me as something other than them. And I heard one being talking to another being about me. Now, how whacked is that? When that dawned on me, when I finally caught that, I was like, what the hell? There's more than one of them in there. I'm like totally freaked out. There's more than one voice in my head. Because I had considered the possibility before that the voice in my head was higher self teaching me. And I was good with that. But now all of a sudden, there's more than one voice. There's the voice that I'm used to talking to somebody else about me. Go figure. It took me a while. So after a while, I just started referring to them, the voices in my head, as higher self. Excuse me, higher selves. I started using plural, higher selves, because I had personal evidence, because I heard them, and nobody can tell me I didn't. Hell, my mental body can't say that didn't happen, because it was blown away too. All of the ground crew, we all heard that exchange. So we were accepting the fact that there's more than one head. There's more than one voice in my head. There's voices. So it's like, okay, plural, higher selves. So I'm good with that. So I'm driving around, and after maybe a month or so of referring to higher selves, I'm driving around the road one day and I just said to them in my head, do I just continue referring to you guys as higher selves, or do you have names? I literally asked the voices in my head, do you guys have names? I know you're there. I accept the fact that you're there. I'm past that. So do you have identities? Do you have names? And I immediately, without a hesitation, they answered. And this is what they answered. Raluan and Zeo. I was shocked because I knew those two names. I knew who Raluan and Zeo were. After Nimish came in and left, Zeo came in. And after Zeo left, Atavar came in. In Georgian's case, Nephish came in, and after Nephish left, Raluan came in, and after Raluan left, Aquazar came in. I was familiar with those names, Zeo and Raluan. Zeo here and Raluan was there. But when I and I wanted to show you this, why one reason why I really wanted to newsletters, because I wanted you to see for yourself in printed evidence that it was always printed and said Zeo and Raluan. We just automatically, unconsciously always said Nimish and Nephish, Zeo and Raluan, Atavar and Aquazar. We don't know why, but we just always just generically, Georgianne and I just always generically had the male and then the female, the male and then the female, the male and then the female. So it was always Zeo and Raluan. Well, when I asked, do you guys have identity? Do you guys have names? It was presented to me immediately response as if they were sitting right there in the truck waiting for me to ask the question. And it was answered Raluan and Zeo. Hindsight being 2020, I realized just how slick and aware they are. They knew that if it was answered to me and presented to me their identities as Zeo and Raluan, there would be the possibility of my mental body going, shit, you just made that up. You just pull that shit out your ass because you know Zeo and Raluan. It's always, we never, ever, ever, ever referred to those beings as Raluan and Zeo. It was always Zeo and Raluan. And they knew that. So when they presented their identities to us, they put Raluan first before Zeo so that it would be, it would stop the mental body from calling bullshit. Remember I told you when I was first presented with the star map, tell Georgianne right now before your mental body calls bullshit. They knew that Michael, the spiritual body, identity is not my mental body. But they are aware of the fact of my mental body as part of my 4-part system, and that it likes to run the show if it can. And it will call bullshit. I've warned you a zillion times. Your mental body will constantly antagonize you. It will constantly try to you know, pull shots. Well, they knew that. That's why I was presented that way. Raluan and then Zeo. So there's two of the voices in my head. The next day, it was revealed to me that Kim is sitting at the table too. Because this is after I had met Kim. But Kim freaked me. I told you about me meeting Kim, and that freaked me out, but we never had any more conversations. I was just fully aware of her presence, And that's one of the reasons why she was able to walk in that kitchen, unbeknownst to me, with what's the word I want to use? I see the word, but I can't get it out. But I'm gonna say this way. She was very valid in walking into the kitchen because that was her house too. As my twin flame, she belonged there too. Okay, so anyway, I meant to say that earlier when I first introduced her. But, so those are the four beings that sit at the table in my head: Raluan, Zeal, Michael, and Kim. Two male and two female. I understand that Raluan and Zeal are like me and Kim. They're twin flames. They're, but here's the twist. This is really interesting. When they came through us individually in the 90s, Zeal came through this body and Raluan came through that body. But now for all those years in the truck, from 2012 to 2017, in the truck by myself, Raluan from the higher dimensions is talking to me. She's not talking to Georgianne, she's talking to me. She's teaching me because she was the teacher. She was the predominant voice in my head, and I could tell the difference. They have a slight tone and tenor difference. I could tell that Raluan was the feminine, and she was doing most of the interaction with me as I'm driving down the road. She's the one that I heard say, and I learned later, she's the one that was saying to Zeal, give him a minute. He's pretty sharp. He'll get it. That was Raluan, because Zeal is a little bit more rough around the edges than Raluan. So it's like, take it for what it's worth. But those are the voices in my head. And like the very next day, after I asked that question, was introduced to them, that was at night. I was driving westbound on Interstate 40 going through Knoxville, Tennessee. I remember exactly where I was, and I was on my way to the northwest, which is why I was going that way. So then once I got to Nashville, I turned on Interstate 24 and started heading northwest. But at this point through Knoxville, which is east of Nashville, I was going due west on Interstate 40. So the next day, I'm driving northeast now. I mean northwest on 24. I had already got there, and anyway, I'm now my direction is turned now from due west to northwest to my destination. So I'm driving along, and then I'm listening to Raluan, and this is what she said. The fact that you asked our identities was a quantum leap in consciousness, because you accepted the fact that we're real. We're in your heads, but you got to the point where you accepted the fact that we're real. We're real enough to have identities, to have names, which is why you asked. And she said, doing that was a quantum leap in consciousness. And then for the whole rest of the day, veils, just veils. It was like, the best way to describe it, if I could come up with the question in my head, if I could ask the question, they'd remove the veil and reveal the answer. All day long. I mean, I can tell you exactly how Jesus of Nazareth walked on water. I can tell you and break it down. And maybe I will one day. But I can tell you the mechanics of how he walked on water. entrainment. UP22 is nothing but Universal Principle 22. You know what I'm talking about. The universe rearranges itself to accommodate your picture of reality. That's how Jesus walked on water. That's how he took two fish and 5 loaves of bread, or however 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and fed thousands of people through entrainment. UP22 is nothing but entrainment on a cosmic level. It's just, that's all. That's how the universe works. There's just, I even asked, we're driving down the road and I asked, okay, if you're Zeo and Raluan, where's Nimish and Nephish and where's Atavar and Aquazar? And the answer was exactly this. On other planets right now, doing what we're doing with you right now. They're doing it with the third dimensional self in our multidimensional cells. When I say we're multidimensional, we're infinitely multidimensional. Hope you can get your head around this. This is me, the spiritual being expressing as Michael here on Gaia in the third dimension. And I'm working with Zeo and Raluan right now. Nimish and Nephish are on another planet working with another third dimensional aspect of our multidimensional self, basically doing the same thing. And Atavar and Aquazar are on another planet doing the same thing with the self that's on the ground crew. The one that's like me. I'm here and they're there. The being that I saw, or the me that I was on the ship when I shared that experience, that was Zeo and Raluan. I was seeing through the eyes of Zeo. I wasn't watching Zeo. I was Zeo up on the ship that's orbiting this planet right now, just several frequency octaves outside of what we can perceive. We are all one, all of us, and all of ourselves are one. We're all, like I said earlier, the entire universe is source experiencing source in its infinite myriad of ways. So yeah, there's voices in my head. I talk to them all the time. I told you that Kim is in the body, and me and her consciously, I'm consciously aware of her. Well, the fact that she's in the body, this is an experience that I had within the last couple of years, to where she's now really, 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 really here. When I first retired in the end of January of 2017, I grew up knowing how to grow vegetables. We always had a big, huge garden, in our yard, so I knew how to grow vegetables and farm and yada yada. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in suburbia, middle class suburbia. But where I grew up, we had a big, huge piece of property, and in the back we had the house, the yard, and then behind the yard we had a big, huge orchard. And we had like 56 fruit trees out in the orchard, and in between the fruit trees, my dad, we had a big old huge garden, and my younger brother and I, we're the ones that maintain the garden. So I know how to plant. So here, where I'm, this house right here, out in our yard, we don't have a garden anymore because I don't see well enough to maintain the garden anymore. But when I first got off the road, my eyesight was a lot better than it is now, and we had a really nice garden out there in the backyard. And I would go out every day and sit out in the garden and meditate and hang out with the garden. And the garden was like, there's a big orange tree, and then at the other end of the space, there's a big avocado tree. And between the space between theirs where we had the garden and the rows of vegetables, and I put some trellis up against the house, the eaves of the house, to where we grew, sweet peas and stuff like that, with vines that need to grow on the trellis. Anyway, and then I had my chair would sit next to the trunk of the avocado tree, and I'd hang out with the avocado tree, and I'd hang out with the garden, and I'd speak to the plants, and tone with them, and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, one day I'm meditating, and I get this vision in my head. And this is like the spring of 2017. Temperatures getting warmer and warmer as we go through the year. And I see this vision, this picture in my head is presented to me. And it's me laying in the garden in a pair of shorts, no shirt, no shoes, just a pair of shorts, laying on the ground on my back between the rows of vegetables. And I looked at that and I knew exactly what the message was. This is what we want you to do. Lay in the garden every day. So from that point forward, for at least half hour to 45 minutes to an hour, I would get up from my chair where I would sit and meditate. I'd get up at a certain point when I just knew in my knowing it was time to get up, and I'd lay next to between the was it the green peppers on my right and the tomatoes on my left, and I'd lay on the ground between the rows of peppers and tomatoes, and with my arms above my head like this, and just lay like this, and I have this really nice crystal. I have this really nice crystal whose name is Crystal, and I would lay with Crystal on my forehead in the sun like that. This is all data that was downloaded to me, and I follow without hesitation the instructions I'll get from Larger Self. So anyway, one of the things that was shared with me that I'm learning to do when laying in the garden is to just be. I was going through exercises, and I was being tutored, learning how to just be. Just be. Because what would I do while I'm laying there? When a fly gets on your skin, what's your first reaction? Is to flick it away. Especially if a fly gets on your face, what's your first reaction? Is to flick it away. Well, I was being taught to just be, regardless of what I can feel on my body. Just be. Just lay there and allow it to be. I had flies crawling across my mustache, and I wouldn't flick them away. I had flies crawling across my eyelashes. Imagine how irritating that can be. Or a fly buzzing around your ear, crawling around on your ear, and you don't move. You literally don't move. It was some serious training to just be. And there was a lot of reasons why I went through that training, because later on I went through a lot of intensive stuff, and I had to physically allow it to happen, to just be. Well, after that, and I can go into that other stuff later, but I don't want to get distracted, run off on a tangent. So I'm talking about Kim. So after that, about maybe 4 or 5 months after that, and that lasted for about maybe 2, 3 months of that training, to where I was real comfortable. I could meditate. I could sit and meditate and just sit. Because I always wondered, how could a monk just sit and meditate? What did he do when a fly lands on his face? Well, I learned how to do that. To just be. Be one with the fly. Allow the fly to be. Allow the fly to crawl across your skin. Allow the fly to crawl across your face. Just allow to just be. So after a period of time, this thing started happening with my right eye. Oh, this too. While I'm in the, no, I can go back to this. I'm going to stay where I'm at because that's total different tangent, and I don't want to go there yet. So this thing started happening with my right eye, the one I don't see out of. It started getting this flicker, and I would look in the mirror, and it's not like a tick. It's not like a, you know how you get a muscle, you get a tick in a muscle, and you can see it, the muscle moving. It wasn't that because I could feel it, but I could look in the mirror and not see it. But I could feel like a fly crawling across my eyelids, and I could look at my eye, I mean across my eyelashes. I could look at my eyelashes and nothing's moving. Or I could feel it movement in my eyebrow, but nothing's moving. Imagine your eyebrows is like, am I so, can I feel the follicles in my eyebrows moving around? It's like, what the hell is going on? And this went on for at least 6, 7, 8 weeks, just to a point where I could just be sitting still anywhere in the house, sitting in the dining room, and I could feel the whole side of my face just start activating to the point it was like crystals, little tingling, just crystalling all over my face, all in my eyelashes, but nothing's moving. There is no movement, but I internally can feel all this activity going on. And I didn't have a clue what it was. But here's one thing that I knew, and for a while it was freaking me out. There's something going on with my body that I have no control over. I don't know what the fuck it is, but something is interacting with my physical body. I'm aware of it, and I can't stop it, and I don't start it. I have no control over it. It does it when it wants to, does it to the intensity it wants to, and it stops when it wants to. I, to this day, cannot will it to happen. It happens when it happens. So, after a period of time, I just got absolutely fed up, just totally fed up. And I finally just yelled out, "Who are you and what do you want?" And the answer was, "It's Kim." I go, "Okay, what are you doing?" She goes, "The fact that I'm here and you know I'm here and we're sharing this body because we are sharing this body. I'm in here too." She goes, "I just want to prove to you that I'm here. I can affect this body and you can't touch it. I can affect it. So I can do something to this body that you have no control over." And I went, "Oh, that is so cool." It's confirmation that she's here, that she is real. She can affect this body, and I can't stop her. She can make, I can feel that she's doing it. I'm fully aware of when it happens, but I can't start it and I can't stop it, but she can, and I'm aware of what she's doing. So it's like a lot of times that's how we have a conversation. If I don't actually hear her, which I do actually hear her say something in my head, it she'll like tingle, and then I'll focus on what was I last thinking, and it's like a confirmation. When I'm working out, she's always there. When I'm working out, she's with me all the time. So it's like it's really really cool, but extremely strange. Which is why I say always, always, always trust your data. Because there's so much that once you start really engaging, there's so much that cannot be explained by your mental body. And if you allow it, your mental body will total call bullshit on everything. My mental body still does, but it knows it doesn't hold any water. Because, like I said, I pointed out a couple videos ago, when my mental body starts jumping up and down about, nah, that can't possibly be true, I'll just ask it, how do you know? How can you disprove it? How much control do you have over the physical body? All you can do is move the digits and the limbs. So anyway, those are the voices in my head. Raluan, Zeal, Kim, and me, Michael, the spiritual me. We sit at a table and we discuss stuff. We pretty much everything we do is by consensus, and everybody has an equal say. I was sharing this with Yasko and my oldest daughter one day when I was still on the road when all of this first was being revealed to me, and my oldest daughter was working for us, helping Yasko with the administrative. And I was at home one day off the road, and I was sharing this with him. And my daughter Amber, she just looks at me and goes, they do have a name for that. And I looked at it and she goes, it's called schizophrenia. I bless her heart. I just fell out laughing because she thinks I'm nuts, and so she's diagnosed me as schizophrenic, and I love her for it. I'm okay with that because I know I'm not schizophrenic. This is real. May not be real for her, but it's damn sure real for me because I'm the one here experiencing it. So anyway, and both my other daughter's name is Rachel, and Amber and Rachel, Rachel cuts me a little bit more latitude, but Amber stays in my shit about you're nuts, Dad. You're just absolutely nuts. And I go, yeah, okay. Now you're entitled to your perspective. That's what I'll give her. I honor and support your divine right to have your perspective. She hates me when I specifically put it out there because what she is hearing is I'm calling bullshit on her, which I am and I'm not, and I'm not. I'm calling bullshit on her position of being an outside authority because there are no outside authorities for me, but I am also recognizing her divine sovereign right to be as dense spiritual slug as she wants to be. And she gets the sarcasm, but she doesn't get the sincerity of me truly honoring her divine sovereign right to her opinion, which I do for all beings, for everybody. Why I always say from the very beginning, I don't care whether you believe me or not. I'm not attached to it. You have your opinion, and I have mine, and I observe and honor your right to your opinion. I love you. Blessings on your journey, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.